Patriots Nation, what's going on? Editor and staff writer Brian Phillips here for patspulpit.com. It may not look like me. It is me, that much I can assure you. Co-host Ryan Kieran is here. We're going to talk a little NFL schedule release. Ryan, how we doing, bud?
I'm doing great. I don't know what day it is, and all those typical coronavirus quarantine jokes that aren't really jokes.
Right.
But yeah, I'm legitimately going insane, and I'm having a hard time getting super excited about the schedule because it seems like whether it gets pushed back or not, it seems like football season is never going to get here the way each day is moving. But let's talk about it. Let's look what's going to happen.
Right. So this is an NFL offseason calendar hit. That's really more for the folks that the season ticket holders, the people that are planning their trips, right? Which,
right.
You and I are both on the record as being, the in-person sports product isn't the ticket it used to be, right?
Right.
Nowadays, fandom is so you can be anywhere and be a fan of any team, and the in-person experience just isn't what it is, but. Nonetheless, it is fun. It is fun to kind of piece together how teams are going to go throughout their calendar, and how some teams. And my favorite part of this whole thing is watching the fan bases kind of squabble right now in May and talk about how they got screwed, or they're getting the raw end of the deal, and then the always ever pressing talk of strength of schedule. My head is going to explode already.
My favorite part is personally that we've known who the Patriots were going to play this season. We've known 14 of the 16 teams literally for a year now, for years really, if you care to do the track it out ahead of time. But we've known all 16 for 6 months now. But now that we have the order, this is when everyone's going to go, okay, week 1, that's a win. Week 2, that's a win. Week 3, that's a lot. Like. Now you're going to really predict win-losses if it makes a difference because of the order that they're played in.
Right.
For more than one or maybe one game a year. That makes a difference.
So here is the official Patriots schedule. This this graphic is, I don't know if you want to say courtesy of the Patriots. If you put it on Twitter, I'm going to go ahead and use your graphic and then credit you. Sorry, Bank of America, getting squeezed on this on the graphic there. But okay, schedule released a half an hour before blah 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 before the original date. But we've known all day long today that they are going to be starting at home on the 13th against Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins, and then they are going. Is it on the road in Seattle? This graphic is kind of confusing. This graphic is a perfect example of graphic design as my passion guy. Because there's a lot going on, and if you guys are watching on YouTube here, we've got our ticker going, we've got our Pat's Pulpit logo, our normal stuff. So there's a lot of colorful information coming at you. Bottom line, Ryan, you touched on it. We've known who these opponents are going to be. The only possible new information we can garner from this is, are they put at any kind of disadvantage? And then who gets what prime time games? What are the prime time games, Ryan? Would you tell us that, please?
So if the NFL is lower on the Patriots because of a lack of Tom Brady, they really aren't showing it, as the Patriots still have a maximum of 5 primetime games, which is the max any team can have in a year. Week 2 at Seattle, as we mentioned, that's a Sunday night football game. Week 9 at New York is Monday Night Football, and then right back week 10 home for Baltimore.
If I'm looking at this graphic correctly, this is okay. I'm seeing it. The gray is on the road. It's tough. I mean, I'm all right. A lot going on in that graphic. Okay. I mean, Ryan, what else literally is there to talk about the schedule release? I mean, for me, for me about when it comes to the Patriots, it's about I don't care about the Patriots schedule release because I want to know about the other things going on around the league personally. But I guess that's not really our job here. So what am I to get excited about in this whole process here?
Either. But as I'm looking at it, this really isn't kind of an ideal schedule. We had talked about it pre-draft on the pod about how their strength of schedule is difficult, but it's really not as hard as it's been going around the past couple of days. They have the hard strength of schedule based on last year's win, opponent win percentage. I think a lot of the
Which is
teams
bogus,
that
right?
right, and it's bogus just on its premise, and they're a good example
Sure.
of it because a lot of teams that they're playing that are contributing to that, I think, got worse this year. I don't think Seattle's a better team than they were last year. I don't think San Francisco's a better team than they were last year. I think the Rams are significantly worse than they were last year, as are the Chargers. And Houston is probably the best example of this, of a team that was pretty good last year and is probably not going to be very good this year.
Well, the Rams,
And I don't think
I think if you talk about the Rams, though, the Rams weren't very good last year. They weren't
right.
very good.
Yeah,
They needed
but
to
they
get
were an above 500 team. They were an
true.
above 500 team, and I think they're going to be a top 10, picking in the top 10 next year, which they won't be doing because they don't have their pick. That team went for it all, and the Patriots stomped on their hearts, and now they don't know what to do. But if you look at it,
I almost feel like that's a team that could benefit from shedding those chains. Do you know what I mean? Like from
long term,
loading
sure,
up.
but in
Maybe you're right.
theory, in
Maybe
the
that's a
long
longer term
term,
thing.
sure. But they also they they got worse this year because they had to shed contracts where they didn't really free up cap money, and they don't have replacements for. Like Todd Gurley's whatever, he's a running back. Brandon Cooks, I know you're not as high on Brandon Cooks as I am,
Right.
but that still hurts that offense. They don't have a replacement there. Um, they
Man,
there's some defensive
you
moves that
still
they
got
made that I
Bobby
can't think. They lost
Woods,
Eric
right?
Weddle. They do still have Bobby Woods. They have Cooper Kupp for this year. He's probably going to be gone next year. Hello, New England.
Sure. Yeah, if you have Bobby Woods, you're fine. Bob Woods is the man. I love Robert Woods.
I
That's
do.
my
I love me
dude.
some Rob Woods too. But so just getting back to the Patriots schedule, the strength of schedule isn't as bad as think people make it out to be. But I think for someone who just said that the weeks really don't make too much of a difference, I do think this is a less than ideal schedule for the Patriots. So I'm gonna go week by week real quick. So they start.
Right. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. That's not bad. But when you get Denver at home and then you get San Francisco at home, it's nice to not have to go out there. Fair. True, but that's what you're going to get when you have a West East year. Okay. So yeah, I can't get too upset about it.
Right. Yeah. It's not. I'm not out
Right.
here like it's not the Red Sox coming off a World Series season starting on the West Coast for 11 games
Right. So
and then coming back to Boston at like 2-9 thanks to Mitch Moreland. But
right. So
get Mookie Betts back.
Warren Sharp, famous betting personality, Warren Sharp, numbers guy,
Mm-hmm.
Sharp Football Stats, I think is his website. Came up, did the strength of schedule with the Vegas win total over under win totals, and I think the Patriots ended up with the 8th toughest. I think it was 24th
Right. Yeah.
ranked.
24th. Yeah. 24th easiest.
24th exactly. 24th easiest. 8th
Yeah.
toughest. That right. Yeah. I mean the math tough. We'll
Right.
leave that to the experts. But something that I can't help but think about every year, and it's like you're going to expect this schedule, to happen because this is going to be the 15th time since 2003 that the Patriots have played a first place schedule. 15
Right.
times. So anybody out there who wants to bring up AFC East sucks chatter, come at me with
Stuff
that. Come at me with 15 times since 2003 you're playing a first place schedule. Obviously going into I tweeted this last year, but of all the other teams that had played a first place schedule since 2003, the record of those teams the following year while they actually played that first place schedule was 46%, 46.5% winning percentage. The Patriots, I want to take what a venture to guess what their win percentage was since 03
It was like I know
on these
stat
first
and
place
it's
these on these
escaping me,
first place
but
schedule games.
yeah, it was like it's like 770 somewhere on there.
732.
Yeah, a little.
And
It was a little bit high, but yeah,
732 win percentage when playing a first place schedule. See you later, AFC East, not like a non-truth or whatever you want to call them, truthers, whatever.
and that also
that is
includes Matt Castle
insane.
playing the AFC, the first place schedule.
Correct. Ridiculous. That's like one of my favorite.
Yes,
That's one of my favorite stats. Now
and
they
I
don't
just
have
want
Tom
to.
Brady
I'm going
anymore,
to digress
so
into Pat's homer real quick.
yes.
I'm going to digress into Pat's homer real quick. People point to the AFC East, but no one said that about Peyton Manning when he was just wiping the AFC South every year. When the
Right.
Texans were awful, the Jaguars were at best mediocre, the Titans were at best mediocre. They were basically the same divisions for the entirety of Peyton Manning's career and the entirety of Tom Brady's career. They were both like equally bad, and the AFC on a whole has just typically been outside of that top 2 to 3, if you include the Steelers, has just been Peyton Manning, Brady, and then the Steelers. Has just been worse than the NFC in general.
Right.
Like you have those
Like,
top three
Peyton
or so
Manning
teams, 4 once you include.
get an expansion team gifted to him. Like, here,
Right,
play this
exactly.
expansion team
Exactly.
2 times a year.
Right. So that is really more to do with why the Patriots schedule has trended to the easy side. Is just that the AFC in general sucks, and you're playing 12 AFC teams a year, not just the AFC.
Right. So assuming that nothing that's happened this year outside of sports is happening, you'd assume joint practices with the Lions and Panthers, right? Or probably Lions and Eagles at least, right? Because I feel like right, and then right. So like, does my big question when I see the preseason schedule is, does Jarrett Stidham play the first 3 quarters of the Giants game or just the first half? Right. And does it matter? Or do they save Brian Hoyer?
And then like week 3 comes around and Jarrett Stidham's the starter
Hey folks, listen
in the prep
up.
game.
Listen up, folks. That's Brian Phillips music right there. Yes. Yes. Brian Hoyer, the starter. I'm tweeting that
I
out.
think.
Per Ryan Kieran.
I think.
Yes.
Don't listen to Brian. Don't listen to Brian. I think this is I think it would be a creative way to maintain the typical structure while getting Jarrett Stidham extra playing time. If Brian Hoyer was the starter the first 2 games, played a quarter and a half or something and came out, and then week 3 Jarrett Stidham took over as the starter, you're essentially getting him week 3 reps for 3 weeks, and then you can figure out what to do with him week 4, and then he's your week 1 starter. I'd still be shocked if he's not the week 1 starter. But I wouldn't be surprised if they make him prove it like that. Or, even if it's not making him prove it, it's just getting creative with how to get him reps with everyone.
They would have to unplug all of the electricity powering Boston
radio
stations.
If Brian Hoyer starts week 1 preseason, or if he gets hurt.
If your plan goes and they want to try to get Stidham those extra reps and extra game reps, because he doesn't have any game reps in the regular season, so you need to kind of do what you can.
Except for the one time where he turned a blowout into getting benched because Tom Brady had to come back out.
Exactly. If he got hurt in the preseason and Brian Hoyer was your starter, and we never really got to see what Stidham can do, I wonder how Stidham would go down in Patriots fans' minds, having never taken the field, but having this surge of momentum in the fan base. The fan base thinks that he is truly the future, and there's been there's no sign that they think he's the guy beyond 2020. That's just not there. And if he got hurt in this preseason and Brian Hoyer was the starter, it would be, God, what can you imagine if the Patriots had Jarrett Stidham?
Let me ask you something. So we are both consensus, as from what we've seen and what we expect, lower on Jarrett Stidham than the rest of the fan base for the most part. What is your high end?
I don't know. Is that fair to say though? Because we both agree on his skill set. We both love his mobility. We both love his accuracy. Mm-hmm. We both have questions about his processing. We both have questions about his ability to handle pressure, and we have and literally nobody knows how he's going to handle NFL regular season defenses on week-to-week basis. So
right, but I think a lot of the fan base is ready to bypass all that and just assume he's going to get better on the fly, and we are not, which would make us rational. But it still makes us lower than the rest of the fan base. So what is your high end? I don't mean this year. I don't mean this year, but just in general. If the Jarrett Stidham project goes perfectly, what do you think his high end outcome is?
I think if he goes
10,
perfectly,
Kirk Cousins.
Man, that's so tough. Because
it is tough. It's not a fair question, but
because even after you're asked, so the question is after Brady's year and that's winning the Super Bowl and the craziness of all that. Let's say Brady had that year, but they lost in the Tuck Rule game, which they probably should have lost in the Tuck Rule game. How would so he's not the prototypical he's not that high, that first round pick, although everybody likes to talk about he could have been. He could have been. He had a lot of guys had a first round grade on him. Jarrett Stidham was never that. Just like Tom Brady was never that.
Right.
Is it rational to think that he could be a Tom Brady level player if he had that kind of year this year? Probably still no. Right. Right.
So I think, and you're attacking this better than I even intended, but I think that if the Jarrett Stidham project, not just this year, but his career goes, perfectly, I think you're looking at a top 10 QB at least, pushing that top 5, probably not elite, but pushing, if it goes perfectly, again, everything works out for Jarrett Stidham, you're probably looking at a top 5 to 7 quarterback, just because he has that type of physical gifts, and going perfectly would assume that the mental side of the game catches up with him. And that's why I'm still comfortable saying let's see how this goes. I think that I'm not ready to write off Jarrett Stidham, and I think a lot of people have interpreted that from us, from our reactions on it. And I just want to put that out there. That's not. I think if Jarrett Stidham goes perfectly well, he can be the future that wins you a Super Bowl. Not is your quarterback for a Super Bowl team can go win you a Super Bowl.
So let me make this comment for you. What I think you're saying is that he could be Tony Romo.
Yeah, he can be Tony Romo. Exactly. And people aren't going to like that because Tony Romo didn't
Tony
have
Romo
playoff success,
was
which was
awesome.
not his fault. Tony Romo is my dude. Don't make me go down a Tony Romo rabbit hole. I tweeted out a couple weeks ago when the Joe Burrow
baby.
Tony Romo comparisons were coming out. I said there might be 10 better quarterbacks in NFL history than Tony Romo, but there aren't 15. Tony Romo is the most underrated quarterback of our generation, maybe of all time, because he he fumbled the snap and he threw interceptions late because he had to do so much with nothing around him for so long. And then the second he got actual talent, they went 14-2 and got the refs screwing them away from an NFC championship game where they probably go to the Super Bowl.
That's fair.
They are Maya. Sorry,
yeah,
Maya, knock it off.
Yes. Maya, raise up for Tony.
Hang on,
yes.
I'm gonna mute for a second.
Guys, so yes, the Tony Romo comparison. Now, obviously, we're going down a crazy.
That's high end outcome.
Right,
yes,
we're going down a crazy hypothetical. We're trying to have a little fun with it. The odds of that happening are literally like a bingo ball in a full cage of those bingo balls that fly around, and you calling out one.
The reason Tony Romo came up is that he's a popular Joe Burrow comparison. I would say that's like a rosy outcome Joe Burrow, but that's within his reasonable range of outcomes is to be Tony Romo. I do not think that it's within Jarrett Stidham's reasonable expectation range of outcomes to become Tony Romo. That is a best case scenario. I think, of course, if Jarrett Stidham becomes, relatively, and this is going to sound very obvious the way I'm phrasing it, but I hope you understand my intent behind it. If Jarrett Stidham works out like 75% of the way, which would be, a win given the fact that you spent a 4th round pick on him and you were kind of left without a real other option for the future. Right. I think he's probably he's like Kirk Cousins? Step below Kirk Cousins, half step below Kirk Cousins, somewhere between Jimmy Garoppolo and Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins is never accurate, ever. Never a really.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
He's never a deadly accurate passer.
But he's not consistent. He's not consistently accurate.
Maybe that,
he has top end deep accuracy when it comes together for him.
But what I'm gonna need to see out of Jarrett Stidham, what I want to see out of him, and for me to get excited about him, and I'm talking about like hitting that 80 to 90% of a Tony Romo. That's what we need him to. That's what every team needs their quarterback to be. Is an 80% or 90% of Tony Romo minimum.
Right. If we're gonna get on board committing to him long term, he needs to get to like 80% of Tony Romo by next year, because this is part of the deal when you take a 4th round flyer and try to develop him. You have 3 years left on this deal. If he goes relatively well, you have 2 years until you need to extend him, which means he cannot be Kirk Cousins at that point, because you cannot be extending Kirk Cousins, because we've seen how that went franchise tagging him for Washington, and we've seen how that deal has gone for the Vikings. He needs to either be very good by the end of his 2nd year, or you need to be willing to move on from him, because you're going to have to make a decision, and it's going to, what historically teams have made with those decisions is going to cost you.
Right.
And Bill Belichick hopefully is the guy that doesn't pay like that. But
that's what you and I have talked about all this offseason, about how if you're not going to go the veteran quarterback route and Jarrett Stidham is your guy, which clearly that's happening because of circumstances outside of their love for Jarrett Stidham, and because they might like him, but still nonetheless, even if they loved him more than they loved Tom Brady ever, they couldn't do anything.
They still haven't shown commitment. Yeah.
Right.
And so they had no choice.
So what I need to see from Jarrett Stidham before you start, because if he doesn't have a good year, then you need to draft a quarterback and you need to have a quarterback competition.
Yes. Because if they had the capacity to go sign Cam Newton, and then they did sign Cam Newton, that's it. Jarrett Stidham's done. You're not, Cam Newton this year, and then we'll see Jarrett Stidham, because at that point you're already needing to talk extension for him. That's not a reasonable expectation for him or for the team at that point. So if you do like Jarrett Stidham, this is the year to see what you have. If he's terrible, you move on right away. It's over. If he's average to above average and you think there's something there, you get one more year to play with before you need to consider extending him. But if you are not sold on Jarrett Stidham, if you don't know for a fact that he's better than Kirk Cousins by the end of 2021, you cannot extend. Right. So you need as much time as possible at this point.
You got to kind of look at it as if we're going to go glass half full here, the constraints of their salary cap and their lack of high draft capital, top 10, top 15, trade up into the top 10 type of draft capital, it's kind of a bonus. You're not, you might be stuck with a guy that you like a little bit, but hey, we're all in on you, Jared. Yes, let's rock and roll, baby. Let's do this thing. Let's not look at any of the circumstances, but hey, we're all in on you, buddy. We're here. The fan base is behind you. Let's go. Like that, there's a way to look at it as a positive. Like they had no choice to put all of their weight behind Jarrett Stidham, but it's also good that they are putting all their weight behind Jarrett Stidham this year, and it's a sink or swim.
Right.
But for Jarrett Stidham to reach that level where I get excited and I say they don't need to draft a quarterback high next year. I need to see. You want to see some of those eyes in the back of the head type plays, right? You want to see that next level elite, and it's so stupid to call it this, but hey, we're off the rails anyway. I'm gonna call it it factor. I'm gonna need some it factor plays, Ryan. I'm gonna need Jarrett Stidham to go above and beyond what's asked of him on a specific play and manufacture something. And now you and I both know he can do that with his feet. And there can be some plays, but I want to be.
He can do it with his arm too.
Right, with his arm too. But I don't want, when he does make those plays, we're gonna need to see like no crazy, like super super terrible turnover plays.
Right.
We just want you peeking your head out of the system, not like throw the book away, and I'm going crazy,
right. Out of it.
Or just like you extend a play and extend a play and extend a play, and then you don't throw it away and you throw a little lob and it gets picked. The Shea Patterson type plays, if I may.
All right. So the fans are mad at us enough for already speculating on whether Stidham's worth extending as if we're Felger and Maz. So let's get out of here. Last thoughts on the schedule. Do you have any?
I can't revise. Looking at it, I can't revise my win totals.
And that's going to be my next question. Just distribute your range for expected win outcome here.
I think it's a range of 6 to 8 wins this year, and if I had to put my money on it, I would say they're going to win 6 games this year.
And so we're close. I'm in the 7 to 9 range, but I would say, and it's literally right down the middle as possible, but I would say 8 is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting 8 and 8.
Now, real quick, with that's missing the playoffs. With that lackluster win total, I think you and I would both be on the same page here in saying we must, and it can be possible for Jarrett Stidham to be your quarterback of 2021 without drafting somebody, and they still go 6-10 this year. That's possible.
Yes,
it's not
likely. Absolutely. So I thought you were going the other. I thought you were going the other direction with this, but that was going to be my answer. Is yes.
All I'm saying is we can't say that we have to be able to say independently on things, and that's me keeping my mind open and looking at his play independently and what he was given and what and how he does. Now, is a low win total probably going to be his fault? Probably. But it doesn't mean it's necessarily that way.
I was going to say they can go 14-2, and that doesn't automatically sell me on Stidham. Right. But if they go 3-13, that the roster is too good to be 3-13. That's going to be on Stidham unless there's like catastrophic injuries.
Right.
So again, it ultimately still comes down to actually seeing how it plays out. But I would say if you're looking at 5 wins or fewer with this defense, and I know you're going to hate me, Brian, this offense is not bad enough to be a 5-win team when paired with this defense. So if you're going 5 wins or fewer, that's a Jarrett Stidham problem. And most likely, 90% chance range of outcomes, that's a Jarrett Stidham problem. If you're going 6 to 10 wins, that is the range that we expect. And that's truly like an evaluation. If you're going 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, I'm not going to say 16, then that is, most likely Jarrett Stidham is going to have been elevating your team. But that still doesn't guarantee it because it's too short of a season. You can get random luck. The defense can be somehow even better than last year. The running game can just be dominant for some reason. Whatever. This is too talented of a roster to say that the upside hinges on Stidham, but it's also too talented of a roster to say that there is a bottom that doesn't involve Jarrett Stidham being terrible.
Right. All right. That's fair. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Go and book your Patriots travel, book your trips, but maybe buy the trip insurance.
Me and my dad were actually discussing taking a road trip. We were hoping that Tennessee was going to win the division so we could go down to Nashville. But we were talking like maybe Seattle and stuff. And even if these games happen, that's not happening.
Right. So
the one time we try to plan a trip like that, of course.
Of course. But hey, that's 2020 for you. Stay warm, everybody out there in the Northeast. Expecting snow this weekend.
Oh my God!
In May.
I could do another half hour on it.
Guys, but seriously, stay safe. We will talk to you very soon. All right, go Pats.